This is a Peugeot 308 1.6 HDI, and this car is all mine. I had this car for now almost 6 months, and I thought it was time to make a short review of the car and the experiences I had with this for the last 6 months. Now, I bought this car, like I said, 6 months ago, and at the time it had done almost 60,000 kilometers, and in those 6 months that has passed, it's been 25,000 kilometers on it. So I've gathered some information about it and thought I would share it with you. And let's start off with a walk around the car and see what it looks like. It's as you can see, it's a 5-door hatchback. It's a 2015 308 Peugeot, like I said, with a 1.6 120 PS diesel engine. And let's take a tour of it. Now, if you stick around to the end of the video, I have composed my top 5 things you need to be aware of, you need to be careful of with this car. Obviously, all cars have some sorts of problems, and this one is no exception, not at all. So I've made my top 5 list of problems with this car here. Things I think you need to be really careful about. Now, this car is equipped with Peugeot's 1.6 blue HDI diesel engine, and the fuel economy is rated over 30 kilometers per liter of diesel, and that's nowhere near the reality of life. The only way you will get that kind of numbers if you drive downhill and drive like a grandpa. But with my driving, and being this is a 120 PS car, it's fairly quick. It's not a rocket, it's not a Ferrari or something like that, even though it's red. Now let's start off with one of the most important things of this car here: fuel economy. The way I drive the car, I'm not driving like a grandfather or anything. It gets some throttle, and on the motorway I generally drive over the speed limit, even though it's not allowed. But with my driving, this car gets around 22 kilometers per liter of diesel, and that's in general. Now, I've bought some 19-inch alloy wheels for it for summer use, and when they're on the car, it generally takes about 2 kilometers per liter in diesel off the top. Now, the original wheels here will give you a better economy of the car. Well, let's try to open it up. We'll start with the doors. So not much to see here. All right, should we try to open the hood on it? No problem. This little lever here, and then there is another little lever right here, which you pull. Yeah, as you can see, turbo is right here. Oil stick for the washer fluid and cooling fluid. Not much to see here. It looks like it's relatively easy to change the light bulbs on this model here. In some cars it can be quite a nightmare. So the engine, let's fire it up and let's hear how it sounds. Cold start of a 2015 1.6 liter diesel from Peugeot. Not much to say there. this is it. Doesn't say all that much. Well, that's enough. Let's turn it off. Alright, let's open the boot of it. Here it is. Medium-sized boot. I have a special floor mat in it for the winter. Underneath here, no spare wheel, unfortunately. Tire inflation kit, which you are never going to use, because if you do use it, you will ruin the tire and you'll need to change the tire. So, top tip, don't use the tire inflation kit. Now, one thing here, and that's quite funny, you never need to get worried about getting rust on your tailgate here, because it's plastic. All of it is plastic. So that was a bit on the outside of the car. Let's continue inside. It's not that great of weather now. It's a bit cold. Let's go inside. Well, first of all, when you get inside of the car here, first thing you notice is the small steering wheel. Compared to other cars, this is quite small, and this is Peugeot's idea of an I-cockpit. That means that the gauges up here are actually higher than in other cars. Normally, when you drive, you see the gauges between these two spaces here. In Peugeot's idea, you need to see over it, and that's one thing you need to get adjusted to. And you can adjust the steering wheel. You can adjust the steering wheel down, so there's no problem with the view for the instruments. There's no problem with that. But not everybody is happy with the minimum space there's underneath the steering wheel. There's a flat bottom steering wheel on it, like in the more expensive cars. It's getting more common now with these steering wheels, but it helps a little bit. It would help if they have made it flat on top, like they do on the more expensive models that Peugeot have. Let's see if we can get a view of this. It's almost a view here of what I see, like this here. So this is pretty much what I see, but in my case the steering wheel is too low. I need it around here, and this is something you need to get used to, but it's the only quirk that this car has. Well, let's try to start it up. Well, first of all, the thing I really like about this car here is that there's almost no buttons in it. You have a few buttons down here for the central locking, the front screen heater, and it goes on like this. And then there's maximum power to the front screen. Here, the rear defroster and the recycling of air. And of course the hazard lights. Down here, seat heated in both sides in 3 steps. and it works really good, both in on your back and on your rear. And one tip for you: never put your knees in the seat. For some reason, don't ever put your knees in it, because you might break the heating threads that are in the seats here. And if you do that, then it don't work, and it's cost a lot of money to get it replaced. Over here you can see some buttons also. On the left there's an adjustment button for the front lights, and then there's a DSC, electronic stabilization program. You can turn off that, and then the start and start button on the right. Down here on the left there's all the controls for the windows and the mirrors, front and rear, and the mirrors up here. And then there's a central locking device here. Then you can lock all the windows, and if you have kids, you need that. Okay, one thing I really don't like about the car here is that there is only one cup holder. Here it is. And you can adjust the armrest back and forward, and if you have something here, there's no room for the armrest, and there's only one cup holder. Of course you can put things in the side pockets here, but it'll rattle around and it's pretty annoying. You can do better than that, for sure. Also in the center console here, there is an USB port that can integrate with the audio in the car, and there's also a cigarette lighter here if you want to smoke in it or just need power for your devices. Now most of your controls go through here. You have of course the heating here is a dual zone climate control, and you can activate it, the air condition, and then it's automatic when you push it. When it's blue, it's engaged. So no problem there. So next up, that's the onboard computer, fuel economy, and if your tires are underinflated, it will show up here, and you can turn off the parking sensors on the rear of the car if you are towing something. Here you have all the figures for the economy. See how many kilometers I have left in the fuel tank, 920. Alright, next function here is the music. That's pretty normal, and it's nice that there's all the things are gathered here. Up here you have the various function where you can set the audio and the color in the screen. It's not that advanced, it's 2015 car, but the newest model has come out now. It hasn't changed all that much. Here you have phone options. You can set your phone on via Bluetooth for it. I don't use that because I have a hands-free for my phone. So, back to the heater. Alright, we're on the road now, driving the Peugeot 308 diesel. Alright, let's take a left here. Initial thoughts. Gearbox is easy, no worries there. Drives smoothly. Not much wind noise from the pillars here. The instrument board here is nice and soft, so the noise in the car are pretty low. It's one of the more comfortable cars I've driven in this price range here. Being this is a Danish car, it's a bit more expensive because of our tax system than in other countries. But put that aside, it's a relatively cheap car in Denmark. Seats are comfortable, not sports seats or anything like that. Like I told in the beginning of the video, we've had this car for almost 6 months now. One of the first days we had it, we took the car to Hamburg, and it was not spared or anything. It did 180, 190 kilometers an hour on the German Autobahn, no problem. It had almost done 20 kilometers per liter diesel when we got back home. And we had speeds all the way from Hamburg to our place here in Denmark, around 180, 190 kilometers an hour. But only till the German border, not in Denmark. 110, 130 all the way, where it's allowed. In Germany you can drive a bit faster. Now driving here, 6th gear, I'm doing a bit over 80 kilometers an hour, 85 to be exact. And the revs on the engine is only around 1100, maybe 1200. That's not much, and that contributes to the really good economy on the car. If you drive like this, only around 70, 80, 90 kilometers an hour, I'm really convinced that this car can do 25 to 28 kilometers per diesel. But if you drive highway speeds, it'll take the top off it. But the economy is still great on this car, no problem there. Now driving the Peugeot here, the inside of the cabin is very nice. Very nice materials, there's no squeaky noises, no rattles, no nothing. Even though this is done almost 78,000 kilometers, still smells like a new car inside. It has sweetest smell, as you know. But there's no problems in here, nothing's wrong, and doesn't show signs of tear and wear anywhere. So it means the quality is good on the car. It should be no problem with this car having to drive many thousands of kilometers every year. Now, one of the things that annoys me a bit with this car here, there's no place in the car where you can put things. Like I said, there's only one cup holder, and it's in the way for the armrest, and that's quite annoying. There's no place where you can put your phone or anything. You have to buy some kind of device for your phone to stay in sight. For some it's not an issue, but for me it's a bit annoying. It should be 2 cup holders in the car. It should be a place where you can put your phone and where you can put other stuff. There should be a place for that. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, I have a top 5 list of things that you need to be careful about on this car here. So here's my top 5 list of things. Number 1, oil service. Oil service is extremely important on this car here, and I think it's also on every other Peugeot. But I've been told, and this is my experience, you need to change the oil regularly. Don't skip on the oil, and you need to buy the oil that the factory recommends. It has to be on that specification. Don't skip out on the quality of the oil. It might destroy the engine. There are some issues with it. If you don't use the right oil, then you can have a problem with the oxidation in the oil, and then there will be residue in the oil that can clog up the filter. Now, on the turbo in the engine, there is a small filter on the turbo pipe, oil pipe. There's a small filter there, and it will fill up with debris, and then there will be no oil for the engine. So, top 1 tip: use the correct oil. And if you ask me, change the oil more frequently than the factory recommends. Pass every 10,000 kilometers, every 15,000 kilometers. Don't skip out on that. Now, tip number 2. The front shock absorbers. They have a problem. This one has had its front shock absorbers replaced. I heard it. It was a small clicking noise, and I went to my local dealer and said there's something wrong with it. And indeed, it's a common problem. Then there's nothing wrong with the shock absorbers. It works fine, but somewhere inside the mechanism there's something that's is broken, and then you will hear a small clicking noise when you're driving on uneven surfaces like cobblestone and bad tarmac. So be aware of the front shock absorbers when you test drive a car like this. Do it in different kind of environments so you can hear it, and you need to drive slowly for it. Only in first gear, then you will hear the noise for it. Alright, third place on my list of problems, the cooler for the air conditioning. I've had the cooler changed, and it's a common problem that it will break in some of the joints, and then the cooling fluid will disappear from it, and the cooling fluid is just very expensive. So I had this radiator or cooler or what you call it. It sits in front of the radiator in the front of the car. I had this replaced when we got the car, and it had only done around 65,000 kilometers, and the car is 3 years old. So I've heard from a lot of people that this is a common problem. All right, number 4. Now, this car has a catalytic converter, even though it's a diesel, but it's common today. It also has problems. It can rust, and therefore it will result in an engine malfunction, and then you will need to buy a new catalytic converter, and that's very, very expensive. So have the catalytic converter checked, see if it's okay. Alright, last but not least, number 5, the clutch and the flywheel. Both the clutch and the flywheel are weak points in this car here, and in many other cars that has these types of flywheels. Now, it's a variable flywheel, which means that when you engage the clutch, it will get a more softer engagement of the clutch. This will break eventually. In the old days, we had a massive iron flywheel. They never broke. There were never problems with us. Never changed the flywheel in my life. But these flywheels on these modern cars, they break. And if you ride it hard and you tow a caravan, just be aware, set money aside for a new clutch and a new flywheel, because they will break, no questions about it, and it costs a lot of money. So before you buy the car, have the flywheel and the clutch inspected to see if it's okay. So, final conclusion, all in all, this is a pretty nice car, drives well. You can take your family around the world if you like. Shouldn't be a problem there. And with all used cars, make sure to check up on them before you buy it. Don't trust the dealer because he wants to make money. Have the car inspected by a third party. It generally pays off. Well, let's give it some throttle, see what it does. Oh, it drives very nice. So that was it for my car review of this 2015 Peugeot 308 diesel. Hit the like button and the subscribe button. And if you have any comments or any questions, feel free to ask them down below. And if you would like me to review other cars, put it also in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video that I made. Have a nice day, all of you, and a Merry Christmas.